Hi CSL friends, Adam here, and you know what? It's a Sunday morning, but we actually recorded this on a Saturday afternoon just in case, since there's a little bit of weather coming in, not so good, you might have heard. We've been very blessed here on the Big Island. It seems to be heading north, and I'd like us to continue to hold that vision of drifting northward on that hurricane so that Oahu and Kauai are blessed as much as we are. So good morning. Let's kick things off with some music from our own Lexa Avalon, also known as Lexa Jan Hotchkiss, depending on how long you've known her.
Gray skies are gonna clear up, put on a happy face. Brush off the clouds and cheer up and put on a happy face. Take off that gloomy mask of tragedy, it's not your style. You look so good that you'll be glad that you decided to smile. Pick out a noble apple, stick out the noble chin. Wipe off a full of doubt look and slap on a happy grin. Spread sunshine all over the place. Just put on a happy face. Put on a happy face. Put on a happy face. And if you're feeling cross and bickerish, don't sit and whine. Pick up banana splits and licorice and you'll feel fine. I knew a girl so gloomy, she wouldn't laugh or sing. She wouldn't listen to me, and now she's a mean old thing. So spread sunshine all over the place. Just put on a happy face. And if you're feeling cross and bickerish, don't sit and whine. Think of banana splits and licorice and you'll feel fine. I knew a girl so gloomy, she never laughed or sang. She wouldn't listen to me, and now she's a mean old thing. So spread sunshine all over the place and put on a happy face. Put on a happy face.
Okay, so once again, welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living online edition here. And of course, our vision is awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence, even if we have to do it on video pre-recorded. And that's our vision. And our mission is to provide an environment of aloha, inspiring a spiritual approach to living. Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are welcome here. And today you don't even have to turn off your cell phones. As a matter of fact, maybe you're watching this on your cell phone. I don't know. So let's open with a prayer. And I'm looking out at beautiful Hilo Bay with clouds and sunshine and children playing. And even though the hurricane is going to give us a glancing blow tomorrow, it's still a beautiful day. Every moment is exactly as it should be. So let's open up with a prayer and a blessing, knowing that we are part of something beautiful, that we are experiencing the ever-folding, evolving, unfolding of magnificent spirit. And we are one with that infinite spirit. We are connected to that source, to that guidance. And as we sit in that comfortable knowing that we are exactly where we should be, we let our hearts open up and our love and our blessing shine out from ourselves. And we see that blessing shining all over our state and blessing our health and blessing our breath. And again, that beautiful hurricane was nice enough to gently rise up a little bit to the north and pass over the Big Island. And let's continue to hold that vision for the rest of the state. So once again, in your mind's eye, see that hurricane gently choosing to drift a little bit more northward as that passes over the islands. You've all seen the map just picture that shifting a little northward like it did for us. And with every exhale, picture your breath gently lifting it to where it needs to be, where it wants to be, which is out at that open sea and just a little bit northward of all the islands. Let's hold that vision, okay? And let's hold a vision of love and light and perfection for anything exactly as it unfolds. And we give gratitude for the technology and the tools we have to be able to bring you this service. So we are grateful for all the tools we have, all the people we know, all the love that's in our life. We're just grateful for so many blessings in our life. And so knowing all that, we gently turn our lives over to God and trust the flow and trust that things are unfolding exactly as they should. And now it's time for our creative thought, and Susan Gregg was nice enough to video one and send it in to us. So take it away, Susan.
Aloha and welcome. Yesterday I got a really nice surprise. I got a box of my book, The Toltec Way. They've just, St. Martin's Press just re-released it as part of their Essential Wisdom series. And there's something about holding a copy, a physical copy of one of my books that I still find exciting. And I was thinking, always a dangerous thing, but I was thinking about, I did a book signing tour when it came out the first time. And I was in this beautiful little bookstore. I wound up buying a really pretty little Buddha statue. And I was talking about connecting with your spirit and kind of getting the wisdom or the information of, what do I do next? And I shared that I've always wished that when I got up in the morning, there would be a little note from the universe on my nightstand saying, okay, Susan, today this is your next indicated step. I've never gotten a letter, and I was staying at the woman's house that owned the bookstore, and she was tempted to write a letter and leave it next to my bed, but she didn't. And imagine getting a love letter every day from your spirit. You know, just a reminder of how wonderful and magical you are. You can actually do that. You know, I shared before, somebody spoke at church a while ago and she told a corny joke about Forrest Gump and how he showed up in heaven and he had to answer 3 questions before he could get in. And one of them was, what's God's name? And he said, oh, that's easy, Andy. And the angel looked at him and he's like, Andy? He said, yeah, you know. And he walks with me and he talks to me. And so ever since then, I've been writing letters to Andy and letting Andy write back. And it sounds kind of hokey, but it's just wonderful. And some of the information I get back is just awesome. You know, so love letters, you know, writing love letters to yourself. When I lived in San Diego, I used to love going to the card store, and I would get a whole bunch of really nice cards, and I'd write wonderful messages in them, and then I would address them to myself and put a stamp on them, and I'd leave them on the dashboard of my car. And when I'd be paying, back in the day when we paid bills by mail, and when I had to go to the post office for some reason, I'd grab one and throw it in the box. By the time it arrived at my house, I would have totally forgotten about it, and I'd open it, and it was like, what a nice surprise. A love letter from myself to myself. You know, so writing love letters to yourself from your spirit, you know, just writing love letters. You know, the mirror is just a wonderful, wonderful tool. We have a tendency, or at least I used to have the tendency, is I'd look in the mirror and I'd think, oh my God, you look awful. You're too fat, you're too thin, you're too this. Oh, look, a new wrinkle. Oh, gray hair. And now I look in the mirror and I look directly into my eye. I suggest your left eyeball just so that you don't think, which eye? And my theory being the left eyeball is connected to your right brain, which is kind of a great place to connect. But anyway, looking directly into your eye and just saying, I love you. I love you just the way you are. And having a conversation about how awesome you are and how lovable and how wonderful. And if your mind has any, I call them yeah buts. Yeah, but you're really not that wonderful. You can just tell it to be quiet and repeat again You know, you're wonderful, you're perfect, you're awesome, and you are. So maybe this week, focus on the fact that you're wonderful, that you're perfect, that you are the creator in your life, and you're going to create from a place of love. You're going to let all sorts of wonderful, loving things into your life. And, you know, throw fearful, non-loving things into the trash. Sounds like a good idea to me. So I hope love, 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 love. You know, you are love. I always tell people, you know, the only thing that's real is love. You are love, you are loved, and you absolutely are lovable. And you swim in a sea of love, so let the love in.
Thank you, Susan, for that beautiful creative thought. I'm shooting this Saturday afternoon here at Liliokalani Park, and a few days ago I was walking through here, and who should I see in the park but our own Lexa practicing her songs for this week. So we got to thinking and said, hey, why don't we shoot a video right here in the park? So enjoy the world premiere of our own Lexa Jan Hotchkiss, almost live from Liliokalani Park in Hilo. You're gonna like this.
I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of wonder to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone who fulfilled my needs. A lonely place to be. And so I learned to depend on me. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I lived as I believed. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity because of greatness. Love of all is happening to me. I found love of all inside of you, the greatest of all, is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself, it is the greatest love. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity because of greater love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest
Yes. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Actually, it's good afternoon because it's Saturday afternoon and we're pre-recording from my back deck. And knowing that we're all going to be safe and that the tropical storm just breezes right on by and right on through. On my bathroom wall, there's a beautiful blue heart-shaped ceramic plaque. And this was given to me by my beloved Hanai daughter, Rebecca. And I think you all remember Rebecca. She used to grace our sanctuary with her soft, soothing voice and her beautiful meditations at the close of service before she left the island to return to the mainland and be with her family. And these are the words that are imprinted on the plaque, and they're attributed to the master of mindfulness, John Kabat-Zinn. And they are, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And God knows we've all been surfing some big waves lately, both figuratively and maybe literally with the tropical storm, forcing us to hunker down and try to keep our balance as we're hit by yet another huge swell. Our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, wrote this in the Science of Mind text: "The road to freedom lies not through mysteries or occult performances, but through the intelligent use of nature's forces and laws." So our topic today is the Tao of freedom, and tentatively dated back to the 6th century before the Common Era. This ancient philosophy with shamanic ancestry has been attributed to the wisdom teacher Lao Tzu, and stresses, as does the more current Dr. Holmes, the intelligent use of nature's laws and forces. The word Tao is translated as the way, and it means both the path we travel and the true nature of who we are. And author Alan Watts said that in classic Chinese texts there are references to the Tao of the earth and all its creatures, the Tao of man, which refers to our awakened path, and the Tao of heaven, by which the broad forces of heaven and earth come together in a field of polar energies. The Tao emphasizes the balance between our human awareness and our natural state of being as an integral part of the web of life. Within the Tao, there is an understanding of natural intelligence, which is reflected in the ebb and flow of our reality. According to Taoism, one's ultimate goal is to live at peace with the way of the Tao and to recognize that everything that happens in life is to be accepted as a part of the eternal force which binds and moves through all things. Again, we see this philosophy embedded in our New Thought teachings. Dr. Holmes called this eternal force the thing itself, defining it as the invisible essence from which everything originates. The thing itself is the source of all that is, as we know, and it is the unlimited power and creative intelligence that is present everywhere and expresses as everything. The Tao is described as following the path of least resistance while embracing the goodness of nature. It might be considered passive, but it could never be considered weak. Lao Tzu describes the paradoxical nature of the Tao by asking us to think about this question and then the answer. The question is, how do coves and oceans become kings of the 100 rivers? And the answer is, because they are good at keeping low. This is how they are kings of the 100 rivers. Nothing in the world is weaker than water, but it has no better in overcoming the hard. And you know, we only need to think about the Grand Canyon to know how true this is. In the Tao, the human being is not someone who is separate from nature, but instead an integral part of it. Now, this philosophy is the polar opposite of the way we in the West have considered nature up until now, as something outside ourselves, a separate entity to be harnessed and conquered, to be dammed up or chopped down. And frankly, we all know where this has gotten us. In the Tao, reality is comprised of complementary opposites, complementary forces that are illustrated by the symbol of the yin-yang, called the two faces of the Tao. The world, then, is a harmony of opposites that seem different, yet are always coexisting. In the yin-yang, one side leads to the other, and where one begins, the other ends. Neither side is better than the other, and both are necessary because they provide the contrast and our understanding that there is no dark without light, no hot without cold, no big without small, and no creation without destruction. In the words of Lao Tzu, when people see some things as beautiful, they see other things as ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad. Being and non-being create each other. Difficult and easy support each other. Long and short define each other, and high and low depend on each other. Before and after follow each other. By categorizing and labeling and judging, we are the ones who create the opposite, which we deem positive or negative. It makes me think of these lines that begin the poem by Rumi called A Great Wagon. He writes, "Out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, and even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense." The Tao resides right within Rumi's field, where, as we also teach in the science of mind, it's all God expressing divine order, despite our judgments of right and wrong or bad and good. One of the fundamental tenets of Taoism is Wu Wei. The common translation of Wu Wei is non-action, but more accurate translations might be the action of non-action or action without intent. This seems paradoxical and could be misinterpreted as apathy or laziness. But within the context of Taoist scripture, it means to not go against the nature or to not force something to happen. Getting in our own way or missing an opportunity because we're too stressed or preoccupied to even notice it, or trying to force something, is the antithesis of Wu Wei. On the other hand, I think all of us have had the experience of feeling that something is coming through us rather than by us, or we've become so happily involved in an activity that we lose track of all time. Sometimes, not as often as I would like, this happens to me when I'm writing a Sunday message, and what a joy that is. It's Wu Wei. It's being in the flow. A good example of Wu Wei is the effectiveness and the effortlessness of floating. You know, the body knows exactly and how to float. It's acting without doing. It's working without effort. But if somebody's thrown in the water that doesn't know this, they will immediately begin to thrash around and swallow water, and panic ensues, and it often does not come to a good end. It's the movement or the forced action that leads to disaster. Water is mentioned numerous times in the Tao Te Ching to explain the concept of Wu Wei. It's suggested that humans ought to be more like water, which is fluid and flexible, yet it gradually changes things through its patient strength and endurance. It does this by following the laws of nature. Similarly, humans who are flexible and can adapt themselves to their environment are more apt to move through seemingly difficult experiences with efficiency and calmness and grace. Alan Watts, who wrote a lot about the Tao, uses the example of sailing a boat versus rowing a boat, which requires immense strain and hardship to move against the current of a body of water. Sailing, on the other hand, uses the forces of nature, namely the power of the wind, to skillfully move and maneuver the boat. And rather than going against nature, sailing involves the effortless flow through and with nature. Wu Wei can also mean action without attachment. It means letting go of the need for continuous control and just accepting what is in the moment. When we release our attachment to a desired outcome and simply allow things to be as they are, we tap into the awareness of a power that is without limit. True freedom lies in knowing that we do not need to harness this power. We only need to have an awareness of it and be receptive to its existence. To align with the natural flow of the Tao is to be in harmony with the natural flow of universal intelligence. And Taoists try to apply Wu Wei into every aspect of their lives, whether it's relationship or career or physical or mental endeavors. It's consciously choosing to flow with the current rather than paddling upstream. It's learning to surf rather than futilely trying to control the waves. As I said before, these past few months, we've had a lot of opportunity to let go of our need to control everything. And every day we have to choose whether we're going to live this day in fear or being angry at our circumstances, or to accept and adopt to our ever-changing reality, while still showing up to do what is ours to do. It's not always easy, and some days are much better Wu Wei days than others, that's for sure. But every day is a new beginning and a new opportunity to learn to surf. I've been reading The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer in anticipation of probably facilitating a book study for those of you who might be interested. And his work inadvertently accentuates the art of Wu Wei, as he reminds us that we are not our bodies and that the you inside each of us remains changeless throughout the ages and stages that our changing bodies go through. So rather than saying we have a soul, we reach the self-realization when we say instead, we are a soul. We are the silent witness, observing the different aspects of our being, and that reality that is us, that unchanging reality, stays the same no matter what age or stage we're in. So Singer emphasizes that we are not our thoughts, but rather we are the one who is aware of our thoughts, experiences, and reactions to these experiences. He calls birth the original primal disturbance, occurring when our soul falls into our body and begins to try to define itself by means of external objects and experiences. So a good example of this can be found in the stage that mothers so fondly refer to as the terrible twos. When the primary language is no or mine, and the primary action is crying or screaming, what parent can forget that piercing shriek that occurs when a toy is taken away or a counted upon routine is changed? This is because the 2-year-old has defined him or herself via the objects and experiences that are outside of him or her, as in my toy, my crib, my routine. Remove or change them and watch me freak. Thus begins the process of developing our ego, or what Freud referred to as the masquerading self. The facade we pull over our consciousness to define ourselves so that we may feel oriented and safe in an ever-changing world. We build our ego based on these experiences and beliefs and perceptions and routines we have internalized. And we go through life needing things to be the way we think they ought to be. So that old saying, we see the world not as it is, but as we are, applies here, as we cling to the structures we have built around us to keep us feeling okay. The Tao of freedom is reached when we embody the understanding that we are all conduits for the divine. Spirituality is all about recognizing and returning to that core of unchanging divinity, the creative consciousness of spirit that is us, while we undergo the gradual process of dropping the facade, of shedding the facade, that which limits us and keeps us in fear or frustration or anger. When we forget that the divine consciousness is our consciousness, we can imprison ourselves with our thoughts. We're all familiar with that proverbial monkey mind, that incessant, endless stream of chatter that can leave us feeling overwhelmed, confused, and even paralyzed. It's the worries that keep us up at night, the assumptions that cause us grief, the projections we make about the future, and the regrets and sentiments we carry with us from past experiences. Now, this monkey mind stems from the false belief that we are our thoughts. That voice in our head is really only the ego feeding itself. The Tao of freedom moves us toward coming to identify with that voice as we reach the realization that we are not the one who is thinking the thoughts. Rather, we are the one who is aware of them, and we are the one who can quiet them. We are the one who can release them. We are the one who can change them. We're all vulnerable to the unfolding of reality, like the spread of COVID or the threat of a hurricane. But Singer gives a more benign example of this, when maybe we're thinking, it better not rain today, it's my birthday. And then when the rain arrives, allowing it to ruin our day, rather than going with the flow and adapting to the change that has come our way. This example came home to me as I was writing this talk yesterday, and I found myself thinking, that hurricane better not touch down on the Big Island. We have to live stream our service on Sunday. Well, guess what? Here we are in my backyard pre-recording, and I need to adapt. And Adam needs to adapt to the wind that keeps flowing through the mic. I swear I learned so much about myself and my own foibles when writing these talks. Maybe I learned more than my audience does. Who knows? There goes that old axiom. We teach what we need to learn most. I repeat, we are all vulnerable to the unfolding of reality. We return to the core of our divinity when we recognize that things can fall apart in any moment, and we give up trying to manipulate the outside environment to make us feel better inside. We deepen our spirituality when we recognize that we have been looking outside to define ourselves, rather than knowing ourselves as the awareness behind that voice in our heads. When we know this, we return to the seat of our consciousness and the divinity that we truly are. So when we consciously unite with our inside core of truth, we're then able to strengthen both who we show up as in the outer world and how we cope with this outer world as reality unfolds before us, minute by minute and day by day. Ultimately, our job is to learn how to be okay with whatever reality confronts us, as we choose to shed that outside facade we have constructed to define and defend ourselves. So, I don't know about you, but I'm still working on it, and will be working on it till the day I exit this planet. It's a never-ending process, but progress can always be measured by our increasing feelings of peace in the world, and it's so worth it. It begins, as everything else does, with our choices. One choice we can make is to question our fearful, angry, or defensive responses. So we could ask ourselves, is this response coming from my core, from the truth of who I am, or is it coming from my facade? In so doing, we remember that our facade has been constructed and is maintained by our past experiences and the beliefs that we have built up about these experiences. And this facade can be easily deconstructed by returning back to the unchanging core of divinity that we really are. We can also choose to just notice, as in, the real me is noticing that the outer me is disturbed, angry, fearful, or defensive. We can start small, say by noticing that we are disturbed by the erratic and painfully slow driver that's impeding our pace and trying our patience. And instead of reacting with anger or carefully poising our middle finger and or name calling, "You idiot," is my preferred response, I'm sorry to say. Instead of this, we can choose to stop, notice our response, and temper our reaction. The you that is in there, the deeper part of your being that is noticing, is then better able to help the outer you relax, release, and accept the experience with grace. This process allows us to let go of our preconceived notions about how the world should be, as in, that inept woman should never be allowed to drive. And as our highest self agrees to release our preconceived notions, we move to a place where we are able to separate the event and our attitude about the event and to act accordingly. This process of consciously letting go enables us to deal with the situation rather than our disturbance about the situation. We all know the words to the song, "I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. And I'm only here for God." Well, actually, engaging in the process of returning to our core consciousness reminds us that we're only here as God as well as for God. You know, when our window blinds are shut, we don't have to beg them to let in the light. We just have to open them. In much the same way, we just have to open our hearts where our true self resides to let the light in. This is a lifelong process of learning to surf the waves. This is Wu Wei. And as we become still and look within, we acknowledge that there is only one power and first cause. And this power expresses itself in us, through us, and as us, as it does with all of life. The Tao of freedom springs from our awareness that we have all emerged from the same consciousness that we call God, that same energetic force that some call the Tao, that same absolute source of all that is. And the only constant action that we need to take is to accept this and return to the divinity within us and act from that place of truth, one day and one choice at a time. And so it is. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week in TV land, and the week after we'll see some of you in person. Aloha, take good care.
Well, Cathy talked a lot about water in her speech today, and I don't know of a place with more beautiful water than the lakes and the puddles and the ponds right here at Liliuokalani Gardens. So we want to say again, thank you for your contributions. Thank you for making your donations one way or the other, keeping us going as we go through this interesting time together as a spiritual center and as a spiritual ohana and a family. We're grateful for the contributions that you make to us, and just want to mention again, the donation link is often here underneath in the bottom of the video. Once the link to the Zoom meeting goes away, it'll be replaced by the donation link. And on our homepage on YouTube, there's always a donation button right up there in the corner. Of course, it's on our homepage, Hawaii, our homepage, our webpage. I should have this memorized. It's hawaiicsl.org. Yeah, that's our webpage. There's a donation button there also. Take you right to PayPal, makes it really easy. Anyway, thank you for your blessings and your donations. And we'll just say that affirmation we do about our source, that divine love in and through me and you and all of us blesses and multiplies all that we have, all that we give, all that we receive, and all that we are. And so it is.
A spaceman came traveling on a ship from afar. It was light years away till his mission did start. And over a village he halted his craft, and it hung in the sky like a star, just like a star. He followed a light that came down to the shed, where a mother and child were there lying on a bed. The bright light of silver shone round his head, and he had the face of an angel, and they were afraid. The stranger spoke, and he said, "Do not fear. I come from a planet a long way from here, and I bring a message for mankind to hear." And suddenly the sweetest news filled the air.
Okay, a couple more quick announcements. Want to remind you about our Wednesday night service. Hopefully someday that'll be a live meeting in Hilo, but right now it's on Zoom. And it's in our new Zoom room that we call the Virtual Sanctuary. And that's where we're having all the meetings, so it's not too confusing with the links. Now there's one link to rule them all. So our Wednesday night meetings are held in the Virtual Sanctuary. The link is in the weekly email. And that's always hosted by either Cathy or I, and we call it a healing service because we focus on healing. Our demonstrations, our answered prayers, our treatment, our prayer requests for the following week, and we try to have something experiential healing every week of some type, a reading or a Reiki or tapping or meditation or any number of things to remind us to reconnect with Source. So that's on Wednesday nights. Hope you'll join us for that. And a reminder, right after service is our Zoom meeting where we can hang out with each other and meet face to face, and that'll also be in the Virtual Sanctuary.
Okay. So in closing our service today, know with me the truth that we are all one mind, one power, one presence, expressing individually, expressing the joy, the power, the presence, the truth, the light, the love of God in everything that we think, say, and do. So I'm knowing and declaring for all of us that we have the ability to practice Wu Wei and to know each day is as it should be. We all have the ability to adapt and to change to our circumstances, and that we all do this with a feeling of grace and a feeling of divine connection, because we know that we cannot be severed from the divine, that we are the divine, that it lives, moves, and has its being by means of each of us. So we remember this truth as we go into our week, and we live this truth every day. And I'm knowing that this is already being made manifest and individualizing perfectly as each one listening to this prayer. And so I accept it for everyone, and I gratefully close the prayer by saying, and so it is. Aloha.
All right, that just about wraps things up for this pre-recorded service, but there's a chance for us to connect with each other live right now on Zoom. So if you want to click that link that's in the description of the video right here below, when you come into the Zoom room, your microphone will be off. So once you want to talk, be sure and find that unmute your microphone button there so you can talk and share with everybody. Fran is probably going to be helping host it, and here's some instructions on exactly how to connect to it, and we'll see you over there. Bye. Hi folks, Adam here. I hope you can join us right now over in a nice Zoom meeting so we can see each other face to face and come up with the closest thing we can to coffee and fellowship after church. So if you're watching on your computer and you're watching in full screen, you might have to hit the escape key so it comes back to a view kind of like this. And then if you move down here, you'll see the description of the video. You might have to click on the show more, and there's the link for the Zoom. So now all you have to do is click on that link, and it will take you to the next page, and hopefully you've already got the Zoom app installed. If you've never used Zoom before, it'll offer you the choice to download and run Zoom. Otherwise, you can just ask it to open up your Zoom app, and you click on that window, and now there it goes, and it's opening up, inviting you to join with your computer audio. Yes, that's what you want to do. And voila, you'll be in the room. If you're watching on your mobile phone, it's similar. You might have to scroll down from the YouTube video or click a drop-down menu so that you can see, again, the description of the YouTube video. And in that description, you'll see the Zoom link, and click on it, and there you go. You're all invited to the Zoom meeting, and very quickly you will see all your friends. Thanks.